Hello, welcome. This is going to be a unique class because I have a wonderful guest, as you can see. I'm so excited that she said yes so quickly back from some of her work in London. So we have the lovely Candace Kroll-Goldman today, and we're going to be kind of having a discussion-based class in which we are open to your questions, both in chat and in the Ask a Question section. We're going to be talking about some interesting things going on in the Human Conscious Collective in relation to not just life after death, but how to live your life, life now. So, and how that relates, to life after death. What really is death? There's so many things that we welcome you to ask us. What does happen on the other side? What about beliefs and how does that come into it? And we encourage you to ask about suicide because it is something that we're noticing in the conscious collective that is on the rise, especially in spiritual communities right now. So it would be really amazing for us to discuss that today. People are having very difficult spiritual awakenings. So there's a lot going on that we want to bring to the table today. In relationship to what's on the other side of the veil, and what does the veil even mean in the higher planes and in the matrix based systems. So I'm excited, she's excited. We just, gosh, the spiritual communities, light workers, you have a lot going on in your collectives, and we're just here to help you through that today. I feel in my heart, and I feel Candace probably is aligned with this as well. We feel this extreme need to talk about some urgent issues, and we want to put your minds and hearts at rest and to teach you functionality during these difficult awakenings. So, Candace, welcome. I love you. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you. I love you so much, Pamela. You're always in my heart.
So good to see you. Oh my gosh. This is how we started the conversation. We saw each other's faces and we went, what is going on in the Human Conscious Collective? It is crazy with the light workers out there. How are you guys feeling? Want to just take a moment to invite you to talk about your awakening and what's going on, because it's really, really relevant. What we're seeing, as light workers and facilitators, Candace and I are seeing an increase in the conscious collective of light workers and creatives of all sorts committing suicide. We're seeing an increase in very difficult, very emotionally and physically difficult spiritual awakenings. And it's kind of something that I need to start with because I want to get Candace's perspective and opinion as well on why she thinks this is happening. And I'm going to give you my perspective. Let's start with you, Candace.
Okay. So, I'm not sure the why. We definitely need to talk about the why, but what I have found is a sense just in the last week or so, this huge sort of desperation, just this bottoming out and this real plea for help, and this real sense of, where people's self-esteem has sort of like hit the bottom. I'm buzzing all over there. I must be on some sort of nerve here. I'm hearing a lot of the same phrasing. I'm broken. My desperation, my sadness is monumentally profound. This is the worst I've ever felt. Just things like this. The extreme. It's like the volume knob on all of this has been turned up louder, higher, faster, more than I have ever seen. And people are very anxious and, again, desperate and looking often to other humans for assistance rather than, as we know, one of the places to begin assisting yourself is right here within and within yourself. And then, of course, this whole thing about people committing suicide. I know this is only partially funny, but one of the things I told Pamela before we came on air was I have this chicken, or I had this chicken. Many of you know I live on a farm, and I brought this chicken home a couple of years ago. She had a broken wing. I had her wing removed. She was a one-winged chicken. And before nightfall last night, I found her dead in her pen. And I just stood over her body a little bit, thinking about it, because as we know, the universe is a mirror, and it's a mirror even to me. And I'm looking down at this, and this part about her being broken, it was such, it was so symbolic with some of these things that I was hearing, that I was seeing. She also had only just one eye. I mean, this chicken had kind of a real will to live for a while, and then, yesterday she gave up that will, and I'm seeing that played out with many humans, just sort of giving up. And we thought that was an interesting way to possibly start the show about, kind of what happens to people in these desperate situations who decide to just end it all. What happens to them when they go beyond the veil.
Mm-hmm. And what do you notice with Beyond Quantum Healing in these regression sessions? What do you notice whenever you do hypnotize someone and their higher self talks, the subconscious talks? What does the higher self often say to you about what's going on and why with the suicides?
Oh boy, that's such a big question. So the first thing that I want to say is, if a client is so gripped with desperation and gripped with that anxiety and that tensed up feeling, it's very difficult to allow the higher wisdom to come forth via voice like this. It just is. You need a relaxed, focused mind, a quiet mind. And some of this desperation, some of this anxiety is kind of holding some of that at bay, or it can. Kind of depends. So we have clients who are able to relax and allow the higher voice, the greater wisdom to come through and offer advice. And then other clients who are still so desperately clinging to this anxiety and this tension that it's harder for them to heal. So that's the first thing I want to mention. The second thing is when the higher self does come through, the inner wisdom, the love that is offered is so profound. It is so comforting. It is always, always encouraging. And it often talks about how really difficult it is to be a human at any time, but particularly now. And that was something you were mentioning, Pamela, particularly now. So I always think, I don't know why, but I always think of this as kind of a ski slope, even though I haven't skied in so many years. But you have the bunny slope, and you've got the easy slopes, and then you've got the diamond slopes, and then you've got like the triple black diamond slopes that are the steepest, rockiest, bumpiest thing that there is. That's where we are right now. And so it's hard out there, everyone.
Yeah. And that's what I want to tell you. If you're watching this today and you are experiencing suicidal ideations or thoughts or just any inclination at all towards thinking that you don't want to be here for whatever reason, I really do encourage you to get some help. And that's such an interesting, catchy phrase in spiritual communities because, like, legally speaking, we're not allowed to tell you that we're qualified to do that because in the third dimensional societies, we're not doctors or mental health care practitioners. So we legally have to tell you to call the National Suicide Hotline number, which, by the way, has some amazing facilitators. They really have. And I've had so many clients contact them, and they are incredibly qualified, and they're not, people have a lot of misconceptions about, oh, they're just going to call an ambulance and come to your house and come get you and carry you away. That is a misconception. It's not true. If you form a safety plan with them and let them know that you actually won't do it, that's all you have to say to them, then they won't call anyone on you or put it on record. There's nothing on your file in the United States. I don't know about other countries, but here, those are misconceptions. So I want you to know that you can call them, and they actually are quite good and loving and compassionate and very higher dimensional, most of them. Quite frankly, you have to have a big heart to be able to do that kind of job. So please get some help. If you have a shaman, yes. Yes, if you have a shaman, particularly in person, you want to sit with a healer. Sometimes people just want to talk. This is one of the most difficult spiritual awakenings that I have seen as a light worker, as a channel in any of my lifetimes that I remember. And I've had thousands. So let me just hold your heart in mine for a moment. It's difficult. You know, and when we see these periods of amplification, is what I call them, you know, we tend to overly judge ourselves, overly criticize ourselves. But all this is a period of amplification for the collective of lightworkers and healers that are out there. And that's you who are listening. So if you're happy and you're in a good place, you're going to get more happy. And just outright, you know, samadhi, you know, you're going to go into bliss. You know, if you are having a great time with like unity and oneness and you're meditating, you're going to go even more into that. If you are sad, you're going to be pulled into grief. Probably there might be something there that needs to come out. So whatever wants to happen based upon your current frequency is being amplified. So I wanted to start there because anxiety, by the way, that's my thing in particular that I need to work through. So it becomes panic, outright panic. Healers, I'm going to speak very personally to you for a moment because I represent you in this lifetime. And that is why I speak about this and teach about this. As one of your ambassadors, you are experiencing burnout. I am too. Here's why. I'm going to make it very, very basic for you. If you want to stay on this side of the veil, first of all, you have to commit to the fact that you want to play this game. So many people are coming to me saying, this is not real. This is illusion. This is not reality. Therefore, it's empty and meaningless to me, and I don't want to play. I want to take my ball and go home. Let me remind you that you are here because you did choose. You are not powerless. You, as a divine creator, chose a very difficult environment because you are powerful, because you can make a difference, because you can help other people wake up and they will learn from observing you. You are the leaders. You are the pioneers of the grace that is to follow. Don't give up. Be that grace. Be that power. Be that peace that you want, that you complain about, that you don't have. When you're scared and you're reaching out to me and Candace and other facilitators of light, be that light for other people. If you're worried that you need something, go give it. If you don't have it, go give it. In the moment of the human connection that wants to happen in your collectives, when you connect heart to heart, hug to hug, real connection, you know, put down the instant message and the text and pick up the phone or go over to each other's houses. Join spiritual communities. Create intentional communities. There are various reasons why this is happening so that you begin to lean upon each other in exchange of services as opposed to closing down your homes and hearts and just relying upon third dimensional matrix-based money systems. There are many reasons why this period of amplification is happening, but you are powerful creators and you are choosing this game. So step one, commit that you want to live and be and play in it, and that you're here for a divine reason that's going to make an immensely wonderful difference. So think about that. Just think about that for a moment. If you can't do it for me, do it for a child, a grandchild, a spouse. Do it for students who wish to learn from you. Do it for, if you are a student, do it for your teacher. If you are a parent, do it for your kids. Whatever you need to do, whatever egoic excuse you need to create, the ego is there to create that for you. So what will you choose to create from? Are you going to choose to create from, oh, shame? I'm going to be here because of shame. Okay. If guilt works for you in that moment and it keeps you playing the game so that you can succeed in it and make a change in the collective for yourself and others, by golly, do it. Suicide is not the way out. Let's start there. What I see as a medium, as a channel on the other side of the veil, is that when a soul seems to make the choice to commit suicide, okay, it's very, very interesting. They have a plethora of choices. There are so many choices. And this is not me advocating for it. And this is not me denying the positive or negative choices that can occur. But if you are leaving this body with grief, your grief follows you. I'm going to give some examples. The movie What Dreams May Come, Robin Williams. You remember that? If you don't, I'm going to tell you just that brief part of the movie. Not the whole thing. I don't want to spoil it for you, but it was very, very interesting because what happened there is a lot of what I see as a medium about the other side of the veil when a person commits suicide. Basically, his belief is that he can go save her, so he did. And he had to experience the depths of what we call hell, and they created it, and it was self-created, but very real for both of them because the beliefs follow. Your purpose for being here is to create love and joy and peace and bliss-based beliefs. And when you do cross the veil, that is what follows. So whatever, all the choices that are out there are created upon the beliefs that you master, the beliefs that you give up on, the beliefs that permeate you, negative or positive. That is what I'm seeing. So in this movie, what Robin Williams did, he decided that his wife had committed suicide. They had lost their daughter to a tragic accident or to something. I don't remember what, but she was really young. And he decided to go help her. And he went into the depths of hell and did that. It was a little bit, it was a little bit mythological even. I remember some mythology stories that remind me of what he did, like of his depths of love for her. But I see this on the other side of the veil. And I see that people believe that they are so connected that bond follows them. I see that people believe that they want to connect with a loved one that they lost and have it become a spirit guide. And then that happens on this side of the veil. And the person on the other side of the veil comes in and plays the role of the spirit guide to the living person. It happens all the time. I see self-created versions of hell. I see people who start their lives and go directly into positive places that they never dream existed. And then very much like the end of the movie, at What Dreams May Come, when they're sitting in heaven and they, it's like a country song backwards. You get your dog back, your wife back. Seriously, at the end of the movie, like the dog and the daughter and the husband and wife are all together. Everybody's back. So, and then they look at each other and they're like, oh, so what now? And guess what they decide to do? They go do it again. You decide to go do it again. You as a powerful creator. What do you see often on the other side of the veil, Candace, when it comes to spirit guides? People ask me about that a lot. Oh, we can't hear you all of a sudden. Did you mute yourself? There you go.
Yeah, I was having a bit of water, and so yes, thank you for reminding me to unmute myself. Spirit guides. Well, the one interesting thing about spirit guides is that they can come in innumerable forms. It can come, just like you said, a former family member, a former pet, an animal, a character of some kind. So they come in many, many versions and varieties, and there's many different ones that will show up for different situations or different outcomes of lives. So more than you might imagine is available, and sometimes groups will show up. That's always fun as well. Animals, though, big time. Lots and lots of animals, especially if you're an animal lover. There's some big connection with our human hearts that allows us to really give our hearts completely over to animals sometimes when we don't, often to other humans. And so they can embody or personify a spirit guide connection for a lot of people on the other side.
Yeah, with the animals, I see that a lot too. And sometimes I will notice the animals, and it's probably because I connect so strongly to animals and children. I won't see them before I see, their alleged owners. I don't like that word. You know what I mean? Before I see the animals' pets, I will see the animals. I just say that because they think of us in that way sometimes. I will be reading a pet and they're like, my pet human, blah, blah, blah. When I first started hearing that, I was like, ooh, they think something that's incredibly the opposite of what the majority of society thinks. Yeah, someone asked an interesting question about mental illness being carried through. And, she said it would seem such a shame that if someone can't shake it off, that they would carry it through. I really want to talk about that. And I want to get your perspective on that too, Candace, because I personally do not see it carried through very often. I feel that even the term illness, disease, you're at disease with something about yourself, about the body, which isn't real on the other side. So I notice that spirits project bodies because that is the way that we humans will recognize them. And they know that, so they do it for our sake. But as a channel, I can see the multidimensional layers of the beings that are coming through. So I see them before they begin to project a body. And when I see them leave that body, I don't see that body anymore. They only choose it to connect with us and to project with us and to kind of let us know. So in other words, illness comes along with the belief that you are the body and that you are the mind that encompasses such a body, that you are the ego. So it doesn't often carry through. However, I've also seen soul contracts, going back to the movie What Dreams May Come. I've seen contracts where people will believe that they carry it over and therefore they temporarily do. And they create their own little existence of something. Catholics call it limbo. Baptists call it hell. Mormons call it outer darkness. What I've seen is that what I've noticed and observed is that it is like a little capsule of another illusion that is lower fourth dimensional. So this is the place where you see demons, where you see, reptilians that you are afraid of, et cetera, because you create the belief that that should be something that you are afraid of and that that is something that's bad. Yes, beliefs can be that powerful to create that temporary, very temporary experience for you. It is not permanent. You can get through it, and you do. I see you do it all the time. I see you do it while you're still in your body. So what do you think about that? What do you notice about that? Do they carry over illness when you arrest people? You see it?
First off, my sense of some of the more severe mental illnesses is, the label is so funny. We use these words. A lot of them they have like all of their filters blown. A lot of the people who have these profound mental illnesses often just don't have what we, and I'm calling most of us who manage to walk through 3D reality, we have this way of looking at it like this. And some of these people with quote unquote mental illnesses, they don't have this. They have everything. And so that's why they're reacting to everything going on. And that's why they can't move through 3D lives and often get institutionalized or drugged or something like that. So that's one thing. And no, I don't see that carry through. As far as belief systems, though, absolutely. And I know many of your community are Dolores Cannon fans. And, resting where some spirits go, some people go, depending on how you want to label them once they cross the veil, but not everybody. But Dolores Cannon absolutely did. She talked about the resting place enough that's exactly where she went. So she created her resting place and she went directly there. And I've told this story before, but a mutual friend of ours said something like, yeah, I was around when Dolores passed and she was really confused and I had to help her and all this stuff. And I had Dolores like right in my ear, like laughing, saying, "Are you kidding me? I've been doing this. I've been doing the work for so long. I knew exactly what was going to happen, exactly where I was going to go, exactly what my belief system was, and exactly what my plan was." And it's just so strange. And I often even think about this mutual friend who, he wasn't being coy. He literally thought this is what happened, right? I mean, I don't think he was making this up. He really thought he helped Dolores like move into the light or whatever. But I'm hearing Dolores in my head saying, "Nuh-uh, that's not what happened." So I think that's interesting too. Also, and this I see a lot in sessions, the belief of complete annihilation afterwards, and your black capsule thing makes me think of that a little bit. My own dad used to say. He doesn't say it anymore. When you did, you did. When you did, you did. There's nothing else there. When you did, you did. And years ago, I started saying, Dad, you know what? You're right. And when you go, that's exactly what you're going to find until you get bored the shit out of that. And then you'll create something else. And you'll figure it out that's how and why when you're dead and nothing's there. Is because your belief was so strong that's what it was, that's what you get to do for a while until you're like, okay, bored with this. Now what?
I can just hear him saying that in my head, by the way. It just is so clear. That's why I was laughing so much. That's so something that he'd say. And
he doesn't say it anymore, though. Not since he's had a profound quantum healing himself and watched my mom's passing. And my mom comes to him and speaks to him all the time. And he's so cute. We had lunch just the other day. He was like, you know, she says these things to me, and you don't think I'm crazy. I'm like, Dad, who are you talking to? Of course I don't think you're crazy. She's telling me this stuff.
Oh, he has some amazing stories, that one. Yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting that you bring up beliefs, because someone is asking, regarding the veil. Some describe it as a physical thing, and she said, is it not just a reference to the block that prevents so many from being able to connect to the other side? See, I stopped there, like in that sentence. I'm gonna read it again. Is the veil is it a physical thing, or is it not just a reference to the block that prevents so many people from being able to connect? Now that's where your higher self drew the period, and then you put to the other side, question mark. Do you see where I'm going with this? To connect to what? What other side? In divine reality, what all of the masters teach is love. They don't teach other sides. They don't teach about veils, because it doesn't exist in higher reality. There is no disconnection between you and God, because you are God. In ACIM, there's a reference that says the sons and daughters of God are asleep. They're having a dream. The Father knows of the dream. The Father knows that the sons and daughters of God are dreaming, but doesn't know of the dream. So what that means is the matrix-based system. Yes, it's a dream. It can be a beautiful dream. It can be a terrible nightmare. It can be boring. It can be delightful. It can be whatever you want to be. But in divine reality, there are many dreams going on simultaneously, many lifetimes happening in, at the minimum, millions of existences. And what I see as a person who sees through the ether, and I see you as a soul, I don't see a body. I see bodies that my human brain can't even count. It's like trillions. I stopped counting. I see so many existences. And because we believe in separation, and we believe that we are not God, and that God is some entity on the other side of something, like a veil, what happens is we begin to conjure that there could be a past. And this gets complicated because we believe that it's true. In the matrix systems, in the dream, it is true. It is very relevant, and it does begin to affect you. And that is why regression exists, because you believe so strongly that you are trapped in something that you require a facilitator to help you become untrapped. So that is why we are here, because you still believe it. And then on the other realm, and the higher realm of what is true outside of the matrix and outside of the dream, outside of the illusion, is that the less you worry about that, the less you worry about the past, the less you hang on to negative beliefs and let joy and bliss take over, trust that you are God, be vulnerable, connect with each other, and get back to the basics of being human. The more you do that, and the less you focus on whether or not your third eye is open, whether or not you had a bad past lifetime that's carrying through or not. I'm giving you negative beliefs that have actually caused suicides, severe mental illnesses, and complete blocks, since you believe they exist, that can become very real because of all this. So what do? Less fear-based teachings. If you have to turn off YouTube and Facebook for a while because you are listening to something that is scaring the crap out of you, turn it off. Go walk your dog. Go hug your child. Go take a shower. Go exercise. If you can't, go sit outside on your porch and breathe in some sunlight and drink some water. Meditate. Clear your mind of all of these incessant criticisms that you have towards yourself. Most of you light workers are wonderful at not judging others. I observe it and I think it is incredible. It is amazing how little you judge others, but you sure as hell are hard on yourselves. So what I can tell you is during this time of the greatest spiritual awakening that I've ever seen in any human existence that I've lived in and am living in, this is hard. And you're going to need to get back to the basics of being in a body because you did choose one. It's not you. You're not the body. Yes, it's not real, but does that mean that we're going to let this dream be horrible for us? It's time to get back to the basics. You know, I was having a conversation with a dear loved one just last night who was talking about a family member who is alcoholic. And he was saying that his family member basically, you know, would say, I'm not mentally stable. I'm not okay. You know, I really don't want to be here anymore. Like, I'm really teetering on the edge of really, I can't do it anymore. And my loved one said to him, well, let me just ask you, how much wine have you had in the past 24 hours? What do you mean you're drinking a whole bottle of wine a day and you're expecting to be mentally stable and to function in this dream? What do you mean you eat like crap? You know, and you're primarily eating processed foods. Like, what do you mean you don't, you know, you go to a job you hate? This thing that we believe that we have to do is not really true. So I want you to think more in today's class about your current reality than trying to awaken spiritual gifts that you don't know if they're there yet or not, making your mission completely wrapped around whether or not you spiritually wake up, whether or not you help and give enough to society. Now is the time to put your oxygen mask on and love yourselves. And I know that that feels incredibly overwhelming. I know that when you're in the midst of the ego trying to tell you that you're going to die, when the ego is trying to tell you that you need to die or that you shouldn't be here, all those voices are false, but they are very convincing. In the East, in other countries, I've noticed that the masters there teach that really the majority of spiritual awakening is about meditation. Quite frankly, they have it right. You know, and we're walking around going, why isn't our third eye open? And they don't care about the third eye. They're trying to get their brain to shut up. And then eventually, if it's supposed to happen, then they begin to do amazing things like astral projection, bilocation. There's so many amazing things that in America, we think is just like the cream of the crop. We're like, what do you mean you see things? What do you mean you astral project into parallel existences? If your brain is quiet, actually, that can be quite easy. All of that can happen. And what if it never does? What then? What if you are telepathic and precognizant and your level of gift, your level of spiritual gift is to lay hands on someone who needs a hug? What if your level of spiritual gift has nothing to do with seeing or hearing your guides? What if that never happens? There's like 6 other really dominant spiritual gifts that are prevalent in 70-80% of humanity that nobody talks about, like precognition, the knowing that you get when you just, I call you guys bullshit readers, and you have this great bullshit meter that when people are lying to you, you just get like an essence of it. That's precognition, when you're like, oh, that person doesn't have my best interests in mind. That person's just kind of thinking about themselves, and you don't know why. Sometimes you feel like you're judging. You're not. You're discerning. So that's precognition, and that is one of the strongest spiritual abilities that is possible while you have a body. And this is why I find it so ironic that you're looking to see these eyes are eyeballs in a body that's not real in higher planes of existence. Are you going to take them with you when you go and expect to see in that same way? Because believe me, you're not. You're not going to. Everything that happens as a spirit is from within. Spirits don't see with eyes because they ain't got none. Okay, so hearing, are you going to take your ears with you and all the little bones in the eardrums and everything? Your gifts as a spirit are so different. All that's human. We don't have gifts like that on the alleged other side. In the higher realms, my higher self doesn't believe in another side. I knew this class would get me on a roll.
Yeah. You know, Pamela,
go ahead. You got something to say.
Well, I just have to I'm cracking up over here because, as you all know, I wear these things, right? I've had my own quantum healing sessions. I've asked multiple friends, hey, how about these advice so I don't have to wear these things? And my higher self has always said, no, because keeping this appliance on your face will remind you that that's not the important thing. The real reality is not accessible with these things. And this is my constant reminder of it.
So I am actually almost legally blind. Not a lot of people know that. Candace, who's ridden in a car with me, knows that because she probably was hanging onto the handle for dear life. Actually, I drive pretty well. And it is because I see with my ether-based vision. But if you look at my driver's license, they require that I wear glasses, so I do. Strong glasses. However, it's getting worse with the physical eyes, and I'm becoming more and more reliant. I have no spatial vision. Like, I have no depth perception. I have no peripheral vision. Like, I'm basically like... So without my glasses, if I were to rely upon physical vision, I'd be useless. I don't see that way. I don't see that way at all. So for those of you expecting to see things with your eyes, please think much more deeply. It requires a lot of trust to not be able to see the majority of the time. I can barely see the screen I'm looking at, but I trust and I see through the ether. And then the moment I trust, the entire screen opens up and I see in a way that is not with the cones and rods in my eyeballs. It's a little weird. You can do it too.
Maybe someday.
Oh, you can. Let's look at some of these questions. That's interesting. She says, if we are multidimensional beings, why is it that when we get to the other side, we are only aware of our current selves? Or do we join all the aspects of ourselves, known as the higher self or oversoul? Okay, I want you to think deeply here. Think about wonder and how much I teach about it. It is the basis of belief. And that is why it's so important. Wonder can be negative, wonder can be positive, wonder can be neutral and open. I really love it when it's neutral and open. You can do a lot of powerful things. However, what I notice is that you have a belief system that once you leave the body, you still got your brain kind of operating a little bit. And you're going into what I call the lower astral realm, upper astral realm, depending upon where you are in your spiritual development. When you leave the body, the fourth dimension can be a unique experience for everyone. So everyone goes to the fourth dimension, and some people have this, almost everyone, because that's where the beliefs are. That can change. You don't have to be a part of that. But almost everyone, because of their current belief system, seems to go to a level of the fourth dimension that can be neutral. They can have what they call like a Christian life review with God in front of them and everything. Archangel Michael could come down if you're an Archangel Michael fan. Do you guys remember Jodie Foster in that movie Contact, when what she saw and who she saw was her dad, but then she started to recognize that it really wasn't her dad. They were just taking form because that's what she believed and wanted and loved at the subconscious level. That's what she wanted. She didn't really believe that anything was out there. She was a bit of an atheist or agnostic, something. So her belief came through. So basically, some of you, I notice, sit down and have like a higher council of beings that come around, Candace, I love your perspective on that too, because I know you talk a lot about when there's this counsel around sometimes that you've seen that. Some of you meet with Jesus directly and sit down with God, and God says, well, you did this right, you did this good, and yeah, blah, blah, blah. And some of you experience nothing but just seeing themselves because that's all you believe. Do you see how open-ended this answer has to be, because belief is like that? What's your perspective on that, Candace?
It's exactly the same, which is the being a creator is all the time. You're always a creator. The first time that you said that earlier on the show was the coolest thing, because I watched this big orb manifest between the keyboard and your picture, like right here on you. And it was so beautiful, as you were talking about being a divine creator, and it just got bigger like that. And so you create everything, you know, as soon as you start to align, as soon as you start to be interested in and connect with whatever idea it is, whatever you like or you want to give energy to, then it's like you're a sculptor and you're beginning to create that for yourself.
Oh, we lost you. But I see what you're saying, and I'll wait on you to reconnect. I think she'll come back in a minute. Are you guys seeing that too? She'll be back. I can see what she's saying, because I noticed that as well. And in regards to your question, just to answer it more fully, yeah, it's what you're going to experience when leaving the body is really going to be based upon what you create in that experience. So it's an amazing phenomenon to watch as a medium, as a channel, to watch what happens. I really, really love it. And there's a bunch of interesting things that just showed up behind me, and I'm just observing them through the camera right now. And who we have right now that I did not expect would come in is a soul group, council that call themselves the Divine Architects. So I don't know why they're here yet. They just showed up, but I can imagine that they would be here to talk about creation. You saw that too behind me? There's a bunch of energy like right back there. It just showed up right over by the door. Yeah, I'm like, is anybody else seeing all that back there? So we got Cerebus Bay and Saint-Germain and some other divine architects that are coming through. El Moria, or El Moria, depending upon how you, yeah, there's a bunch of them. And Sananda. There's a bunch. Gotcha.
How strange is all of that?
It happened when this group of beings showed up behind me, the Divine Architects.
I saw it there, sort of this pink and orange and woof, woof. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they were supposed to be on screen, not me.
No, we all can share. It's all good. So the Divine Architects is a group of beings who actually, we are a part of them, and they are a part of us, and they are creators of this universe. So they are creators of this dualistic game that most people are really hating on right now. So if you got questions about the Matrix, this is the team to ask. I particularly have a deep love for the Matrix, and I'm going to explain it to you. Movies are coming. I don't even watch movies. I haven't watched movies in years, guys. I don't even watch TV. I watched a movie several years ago that I don't know the name of because I don't watch TV very much. It had Keanu Reeves in it, and it was definitely a movie about aliens, and Keanu Reeves was an extraterrestrial who came down in order to, someone who knows this movie is going to know. It's a very popular movie. He came down to humanity, and he met this woman with a child, and basically he was here to observe us, possibly Constantine, possibly. He was here to observe us, to report back to his team, which, by the way, is similar to the Divine Architects. So he reported back to his extraterrestrial team. Yes, City of Angels. No, not City of Angels. That's Meg Ryan. So basically he came down and he was making a judgment call of whether or not the aliens were going to destroy us or not, which I hate that thing, by the way, because they never do. When I talk to them, they never want to destroy us. It's such a human thing. The day the earth stood still sounds familiar. Yes, yes. And he had to make a judgment call and report back to his team on whether or not we were evolved enough to deserve being worthy of continuing to be human, or all the aliens going to blow us up. Standard human theme in the movies these days. Drives me nuts, these apocalyptic themes. But anyway, the good part of the movie is that, well, here's the bad part first. Hang on. The bad part was we were failing. It was wrong, right? It was like the aliens were like, no, we're going to kill you. And they started the process of the killing. And of course, true standard American militant fashion, the military came out and started shooting everything. Also happens in the movie. Shoot the aliens. Oh my God, we're all going to go into interplanetary war. World War III was happening, and this big, so American movies. This craft came down from the sky, and I was like, why the F am I watching this movie? This is so standard. But my guys were like, keep watching, keep watching. I'm like, oh, this is terrible. Why do I keep watching? So I kept watching, and everybody's dying, right? And this woman's in the tunnel, the woman who met Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves is the alien who makes the decision. And he was helping protect her because he had fallen in love with her. We got to keep up with the American theme in the movies. So he had fallen in love with her, and they were in this tunnel, and she was holding her child because her child had gotten shot with some of the things that the aliens were shooting back at the Americans. And he had gotten into his skin, and he was dying, and she was crying, and she was holding him. And I'm like, oh no, please don't make me watch this, So she was holding him in true mother style. She looked up and she handed them to Keanu Reeves. She handed her child to him, and she said, please heal him and take me. I do not care about my life. Please. He is the future of this world. Take him. And then all of a sudden, like, the war stopped, and he looked at her, and all the shooting stopped, and the aliens were gone, and then she had to get Keanu Reeves back on his ship, of course, and I guess they didn't get to have their love affair, so the movie ending wasn't that great. But my whole point is, what is here that's beautiful about humanity is your sentience, your hearts. This is why I love being human. This is why I love being on this side of the veil. I have been in spirit. I have done the enlightenment game. I've done all that. And quite frankly, it's boring compared to your beautiful hearts. So that's what it is. I need to look at some more questions. You guys want to ask questions to the architects that are still here? I don't know why they're here yet. But if you have questions about being here on this side of the veil, it's a good thing to ask. That's the interesting question. Steph said, in this life beyond the veil, do we still have an individuality despite, in the life? Why did I read it this life? Probably because the divine architects want you to focus on this life, on this side of the veil. But I will read your question the way that you want me to. In the life beyond the veil, do we still have an individuality despite oneness? I just stopped there. But the end of your question said, even at the highest dimensions. There's no even, is what the architects said. Everything is a beautiful, perfect, high frequency experience. Yes, even this one is what Cerebus Bay said. It's not here for comparison and judgment. And when we stop trying to compare and judge whether our experience is a low frequency, a high frequency, oh my goodness, I'll get another tangent. To answer your question, individuality is not a concept on the other side of the veil if there is a veil. It's not a concept that you need or require. But I notice that a lot of spirits do put on the individuality hat because we still believe in separation and we need to connect, and it's hard. So they put on whatever hats we want them to put on. But they are us. They are us. In the movie Contact, Jodie Foster is the same as the Father. The Father is the same as the extraterrestrial who's coming through to play the Father, and you are all one. And it won't make sense while you're still here in this body with this human brain. The concepts that I'm trying to teach you are beyond that. So you're trying to make it make sense based upon a human reference point. What do you think, Candace?
I think you're absolutely correct. I kind of went off on my own tangent while you were talking.
Did you
Got all
tell
that
me?
in my head. Well, I was actually wondering about the fact about individuality and about the idea that we may carry some of that individuality past this living existence. There are some people who are mediums or claim to be mediums who then will receive information from those who are outside of physical existence, are beyond the veil, and I think sometimes apply some very human, egoistic terms and concepts to them. Something I heard just recently was that a well-known character that we both are very fond of might have given a message about being really upset and misrepresented and disappointed and having these very human reactions towards what's going on with humans. And I don't find that to be generally the case unless they're really, really lower 4D astral kind of things, which don't seem to show up in my world anyway. I know very little about them. In my own Beyond Quantum Healing sessions, it's just not quite what I end up interacting with. But I would really like to know that from your perspective, if you don't mind. Do people take their grudges with them? Do people look back to their just completed lives and want to have some sort of either, revenge or fix things in that sort of human conflict way? I mean, it doesn't seem to be that it's something that I run into very often, but there is that idea out there, and a lot of people are still holding on to it. What do you think that
is? I'm going to answer your story with your question with a story. Cerebus Bay is asking me to share the story of Enoch. Enoch, within that story, walked with God. Enoch was so evolved as a human being that he accessed his higher realms and became angelic. So these whole stories about how angels don't become humans and humans don't want to transcend into angels, it's all fun little stories, but again, beliefs, right? So in Enoch's experience, from when I channel him, what he told me happened in this particular lineage and his matrix experience, he literally became an angel. He believed so much in oneness that he decided to take upon a high spiritual form, and he left the body, and he, in his spirit form, walked with God. And he took a journey in the cosmos all the way around Earth, and they're walking, looking down at the glory and the power of what, and the love and all the beautiful things about us. And he said to me, I felt so much oneness and love that was incomprehensible if I were to have a body. It would be incomprehensible to even receive that kind of love, much less understand it. I had no questions. That is what he said. When you're walking with God and then you merge with God, which was the other experience, he merged with God in order to become an angel. He had no questions about a grudge that was in a silly human experience that was just an illusion and a story. He had immediate compassion, immediate forgiveness. God's grace was so present in his experience that was not even an inkling of a thought to people that had tried to kill him and the people, in those biblical stories anyway. He didn't have any attachments to some of what you would think spirits would be upset about because they're horrible atrocities in our world. And I know that a lot of humans watching this will kind of go, I can't comprehend that. There's a lot of tragedies that happen here. Why aren't they upset? Because God is greater. You are greater than that alleged tragedy. You are not that. That's why they don't. It's very, very rare. And this is one of the reasons why I stopped providing mediumship sessions. Because I'm one of the few mediums that I know. I don't know. What I get is people coming to me comparing my sessions with other mediums who are saying, my loved ones are really upset and this didn't happen, and the estate is being handled improperly, and this is happening, and this medium said that this is, they're upset over the estate, they're upset over this alcoholic that's still drinking, they're upset over, please tell them, fix their lives. So you come to me and you sit with me, and my perspective is like, no, actually, no, they're not upset. They just share so much love and compassion with you, but no, they're not telling you to fix her will, that's what she would have wanted. They're not. They are experiencing another lifetime with you. This is hard, guys. They don't miss you. How can they miss you when they are you? They're experiencing lifetimes with projections of you, and all the things that they didn't get to experience in that lifetime, they evolve out of it and they begin to experience that in that moment. Because a lot of them that are leaving bodies are evolving and going into very fifth dimensional experiences and creations. And they wake up with you in their beds the next day. Husbands who have lost wives. Mothers.
Pamela, this was one of the greatest learnings I personally had from you, is what you're talking about right now. I just want to thank you from that. Even after doing the quantum healing work, when you were giving this teaching previously about that, and it made such an impression on me, and it broadened and deepened my own sessions in that way too. And I just want to thank you for that. I had to interrupt you to thank you for that, because it was so beautiful. And if humans could grasp that perspective right there, that truly expansive thing that happens once someone does cross the veil. And I think that's a little bit of like what's going on with my dad right now, my dad and my mom. And actually tomorrow is the 2-year anniversary of her death, so I'm feeling her, very, very close by. It's a far different thing that we see than is often projected by, our common culture sometimes about, the revenge seeking or the, the worrying about the 3D dramas. It's just not what happens.
I don't notice that it happens on the other side. Granted, beliefs are beliefs, and I'm not trying to discredit any other medium who does believe that, because the clients who are sitting with them believe it, they believe it, therefore the medium sees it, and it doesn't make them inaccurate, because their belief created the clairvoyant perspective on the other side of the veil that is in that specific world between the medium and that client. So that is what you're creating, and the spirit goes, okay, that's what you want to believe, because that's what's good for your contracts, that's what's good for your healing, that's what wants to happen in your highest and best evolution. So we're going to observe you believing that, you and this medium is going to see those visions of me being upset, and it's not inaccurate. You are creating it.
Right.
Because you're still a bubble of experience.
You're powerful there too. You're powerful, and you're creating that experience there too. It's really quite fascinating, and that's why many of you out there, if you've seen people who have been on this path for a while, and some people just don't get phased very much, it's because they really get this part. They really get this part. That some versions or anything is true in some version, in some sort of way. It's just, what perspective are you looking at it from? And when you can grasp that and accept that, then you become much less defensive in your own being about, this has to be true, and it has to be that way, and and you can let some of that go. And when you do, you get a lot more peace right here, right now in the body.
Yeah. Look at some of these other questions. How are you doing on time, Candace? It's been a little.
Well, I'm doing great.
Good. Okay.
I'm doing great. I have an appointment in 25 minutes, but I can go as long as you want.
Okay. Because if you need to go and rest before your appointment, I'll let you go, and I'll just keep continuing.
Oh, I'm good. As long as you'll have me, I'm good. But if anyone else wants to come on and ask you a question, I'm also happy to.
Yeah, what you guys have to do is let me know if you wanted to come on screen with us, and I would just have to invite you from the chat. So you have to let me know on chat. Let's see. Linda, I have spirit orbs present around me, and I'm able to call for them to come. If they are not visible, I will sometimes get hundreds at a time flying around my bedroom. They range between a couple of inches to a couple of feet and different colors at times. They're beautiful to watch. Yes. What is it I'm actually seeing? other side of the veil, perhaps. I cannot, because in my specific belief system, I don't see a veil. It's really hard for me to answer this question. I don't see a veil. And when you stop the belief in a veil, what you will notice is that you begin to see orbs, you begin to see spirits, you begin to see everything that is there. I, as a medium, do not see, like you're looking around the room and you see like a cup. When I woke up, I would literally almost squash a cup because I could not see its physical presence. I just see floating, moving cup energy. So my guides had to train my hand to literally know how to grasp a cup. That's why if you're in my household and you see me dropping stuff, running into walls, I do it quite often because I'm still not quite trained. This is why I don't like to drive very much, etc. I'm still in training. So with ether seeing, you begin to see orbs, but that's the first thing that I saw. When my ether seeing opened up, I realized that there wasn't a veil. The ceiling or alleged ceiling in my bedroom in my awakening experience went boop, and it wasn't there. And then I looked, and then it was, and then it wasn't. So I remember asking Archangel Michael, and he was like, it's just energy. So when you believe it's there, it's going to create a form. When you don't believe it's there, you're just going to see the merging. And then I started seeing spirits coming through it. And then I'm like, well, if you say it's not there, it's not there. And then it went poof, and then it was gone again. And then I just saw the cosmos and the beings all above me and then all around me. And I started seeing the spirits that want to talk to me. And I started seeing, and every time I would change my belief, I would see something different. So what you're seeing right now is the beginning stages of ether seeing. I call this cosmic dust. So it's full of little energies that want to talk to you, but you don't quite know what you're seeing. Therefore, you have not created a belief system yet. Therefore, you don't know yet. And quite frankly, the more you know, the more you can control it to a certain extent until your knowing becomes fear. And when your knowing becomes fear, this is standard in spiritual awakening, and people start to see what the belief system tells them is, such as demons, discarnate spirits that are out to harm you, things of that nature. When you believe that, you see that. Tons of faces is normal because there are vortexes and portals of all types coming in through all planes of existence occurring simultaneously. So when you see the orbs in the dust, you're seeing the simultaneous ether existence that is in the cosmos. You don't have to know the faces of who they are. They may not even be relevant to you, or they may. You may not recognize them because you're looking from a human reference point. So you may not recognize this is dad, this is mom, this is grandpa. You may not recognize that at that time. You may or may not. So you could be seeing just what's there. That's it. What do you think about orbs, Candace?
Well, I'm still imagining the one that was in front of your chest right there. I'm not very clairvoyant often. I seem to have big experiences, occasionally, but my daily life, not so much. I'm more clairsentient. Mm-hmm. So I think exactly what you think, because over the years, people will say, well, that's my long departed cousin or something floating through the air. And maybe it was. It could be anything, though. I think it could be where you are, what you're focused on, what's coming at you. Again, yes, your belief systems. I like what you just said a minute ago about the little energies. The little energies coming. Often, this makes me think of this. Often in Beyond Quantum Healing sessions, when we are releasing sometimes belief systems, and I saw that, Stephanie asked, how do we unlearn the belief of a veil? I don't know, maybe unlearn a belief is an easier question to answer, because I'm not sure what of a veil might mean, but unlearning a belief, when we ask, and sometimes when we ask in BQH sessions to release whatever, release a challenge or release usually a belief, a belief in something, to no longer have to hold on to that anymore. Very often that leaves us, and the client will say little bubbles will kind of leave their body. Mm-hmm. And I think that's pretty interesting, because those can be thought of as little orbs too, little packets of energy. Yeah. So I think it could be a lot of different things. And my understanding also, when you are out of body and you are connecting with another energy out there, you recognize them not because of this, a physical face and a physical name or whatever, but they can be, a circular big orb, and your energy understands and, connects with or matches or recognizes that energy. You know exactly who that is, even without a body, even though that orb manifested into maybe a body in another way that you've interacted. So, yeah, anything, right? I think it could be anything.
Someone said, can you explain what clairsentience means to you? They wanted to know, is that when you're perceiving things with your heart and understanding with your intuition?
That's how I understand it. Just sort of a knowing, right? And an all over kind of knowing. Pamela's the expert here, though. I'm the one who's learned so much of this from her. It's true.
Students and teachers and teachers and
Yep.
students, we're all learning
Yep.
from each other.
Yep. And that's, that was one of the main reasons I even decided to focus on what I'm focusing on now, teaching BQH, because as I'm teaching it, I'm just learning more myself. It was just like when I was teaching drawing when I was younger. I found that when I would teach drawing, I was so much better at it. So I agree with you. The best teachers are the biggest students, and vice versa.
Steph said, is heaven that boring that we choose to dream instead? And if so, when will the dreaming ever end?
That's a good question.
It's not that heaven is boring. I mean, God is God and God is love. And believe me, when you're coming out of a long, exhausted dream, you need a rest. And you need to merge and re-emerge is what Cerebus is saying. So you merge with God and then you re-emerge, not because you're bored, but because you want to. It's joyful to you to create, to observe yourself as God and to expand further. Is actually a really big gift. So will the dreaming ever end? Saint-Germain got a little huffy and he said, why do you want something to end? And when do ends ever exist in infinity? But he's cranky like that. Cerebus said, you are dreaming and you continue to expand the same dream because you choose to. It ends when you rest for a temporary respite, and then you choose for it to continue in its expansion. So it is ever growing, ever expanding. So it's not a matter of something ends because you're powerless and God has to choose for your dream to end because you learned something and you won the video game. It's not really the way it works. You see what I mean? What do you think about that, Candace?
Well, I think as I'm listening to you, I'm being brought back to the way we started this whole show or class today, which was talking about this overwhelming focus on, ending life with the idea of suicide. And when you were talking about this idea of it being a gift, how often, and again, BQH sessions, a lot of times people show up, the family members of those who have committed suicide, and they're in their such deep grief or they have a lot of questions, and often people come for sessions to have answers or to try to, and often do, make contact with those who have passed. And so often the information that comes back on the other side was the gift is so large compared to the perceived feeling of the pain that was being experienced. And many, if not most or all of the sessions I've ever done where information has been given back this way is that the gift far, far outshines this, the smaller. I know it seems sometimes overwhelming, the pain, the complexity, the challenges of living here. But once you do disconnect from the body and you have a different perspective, you almost universally, the response is, oh my gosh, what what was that? What did I do? I threw this gift away. I had this potential, and very often then the impulsion is to either assist people who are doing this or try to get them to see, before doing this, about this idea of the gift. The gift is really that big. And maybe if you want, you can even think of it this way. It's even the gift of the pain. You could think of the gift as pain. And I remember doing this just days after my own brother was killed, and he was a happy, amazing man, and I loved him very much. And it was very sudden, and he wasn't ill. It was, it happened on the road. And I remember being in his home, and I was in the biggest shock of my life. I'd never had to deal with anything like that. I was only 28 years old. But I remember, I think I was in his linen closet, pulling just towels out of his linen closet. And I was in such exquisite, searing pain. And I remember, maybe it was my higher self that did it, but I remember being told that pain was beautiful. It was a gift. And I didn't tell anybody this. I didn't mention that for decades, because I thought it was, crazy talk, or could be thought of as crazy talk, or that people would really worry about me. But of course, I've come full circle now, and doing this work that I do, I see even that was a gift. Even the shock of his sudden death and the massive grief that my family went through was a gift. It's all a gift. Everything about being human is a gift. And I know sometimes that's hard to see, but if you can even start to open your minds and your hearts to that, you can maybe step through some of the bigger challenges you might be facing in your life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really, really tough, because you hear that echo. Hang on, let me ground. And all the guides say, put your feet on the floor. All right, done. That's why I have a grounding mat. Okay, how do I say that? I sit with mothers who have lost daughters to boyfriends who murdered them. I sit with war veterans who have just come back, and they randomly burst off and spout off into PTSD episodes, thinking that there are bombs going off around them and that they have to save their best friend who died right in front of them. And they will have these memories of trying to hold body parts together in their hands while their friend is bleeding in front of them. These are the types of clients who come to me. I sit with, I sat with a mom several months ago who had several sessions with me. Her son was suicidal, and she took him out for a drive just to get some fresh air. And he got out of the car, and she chased him down. He just left the car because he wanted to run. He was just in this panic state, and he was finally decided not to kill himself, but he was still in some weird panic state. So he got out of the car and ran. And I thought she was going to tell me that a car hit him, and that would be devastating. But what she told me was worse. She told me that he crossed over the median and went into like some kind of a stream. This is a place that was full of like alligators and whatnot, and he got eaten by an alligator while she was trying to save him from a panic attack that he was out of control of. And this was right after he promised her he would not kill himself. I sit with moms who, have children in ICU and who die in their arms. Not even of cancer, but of a shunt failing in the brain. You know, and I, as a medical medium, I'm like, that shunt's failing. That's not doing well. Contract is that he's supposed to live, but the doctors aren't seeing that shunt's failing. And then the child dies. I sit with that, and I, as a human, have a difficult time. As an empath, have a difficult time with human suffering. So it's very difficult for me as a medium to be teaching non-duality and that suffering isn't real when you sit before me and my heart bleeds for you. So what I want to express to you today, that every bit of pain that you're feeling in the most tragic circumstances, if you have that in your contract, it is because the reward that is on the other side is 3 times as beautiful.
Yeah.
And I know that when you're going through that there's no way. We can't bring your son back. We can't bring your children back. We can't bring your wife back. We can't, go save your friend who died on the battlefield. I can't take any of that back. But what I can't give it back to you. But what I can say is that the death of the body is absolutely inevitable. It is going to happen because we believe that all of that's real, and it's not a punishment. It is a part of a unique expression with God within us, so that grace gets the opportunity to show us God's real love. Grace gets the opportunity to do its deepest magic. The biggest miracles that you could possibly have are awaiting, and you have no concept of what that feels like because you are in your grief. And I am telling you that the ego is incredibly tricky, incredibly deceptive into making you believe that there can be nothing happy after all of this has occurred, that there can be nothing greater. But I'm telling you right now that there can be, and there will be. That's what's on the other side of the veil. Grace.
Beautiful.
Grace.
I love that. Beautiful. Felt that in my heart. I bet everyone else did too. Thank you, Pamela.
Well, guys, I think we should wrap it up. We've been at it about an hour and a half, and I just am so grateful, Candace, for you for being here. I know I asked you at the last minute. It just came upon me intuitively that I should, and I kind of threw it at you, and I'm like, hey, by the way, in 2 days I'm doing this. So thank you for flowing with me. And
it was so perfect. Thank you.
And I really appreciate you. I love you, and I love all of you here. And thank you for giving us the opportunity to learn with you and to grow with you. And if you're a light worker that's struggling and having a hard time right now, just know that I feel you. I'm going through it too. My heart is with you. And just sit back, please rest, be loving with yourselves, and take it easy. Cut back. If you're at a job you hate, please put in your notice or quit. Do whatever you need to do responsibly and ethically. If you have some health problems, please see your shaman or healer and do the healing work within if you are that healer. If you need some fresh air, which most of you do, I urge you to spend 5 or 10 minutes just sitting on your porches, or, I'm a woman of the South, you can tell. Yes, water. Sitting on your porches, drinking some infused water. My water right now in my house is beyond infused. Let me tell you, these days, Candace, I really listened to you and Dolores when you told me I needed to drink more water. So I have these big jugs of alkaline water in my fridge now, and they are full of crystals that I have particularly chosen and cleansed and bathed in sun and moonlight. And then on top of that, I have specific herbs that I've also infused. So there are herbs in my water, and there's crystals in my water, and then I, of course, put so much love and compassion that I infuse energetically into my water. So that's something you can do for yourself as a water infusion. Yeah.
So easy. A couple of the easiest things you can do for yourself are simply drink some more water, get some more fresh air, breathe a little more deeply, and give yourself just small breaks. Even if, you don't have to completely quit your job, but you can stand up and take a 3-minute walk outside and get some sunshine on your face. You can do these things, and these small things will assist you for sure.
And it's big things, because you're here to be in this body. And even though this matrix dream is not real, it feels very real. And The body feels very real, and it will get your attention. If you're not taking care of it, it will get your attention. And all the pain that you feel is a warning signal to take your hand off the stove.
That's from Einstein, too, by the way. By the way, I've been hearing him lately. He's a joker.
He is a joker. I knew he'd come for you.
I was going to tell you that in private, not on like a show like this, but yeah, I've been hearing him. He's been popping in. Not much, just a few words here and there, but who knew? Who knew I was going to have Einstein?
He knows you're a great channel. He wants you to accept that.
Thank you so much, Pamela. Thank you, everybody. Such wonderful names: Samantha, Jolie, Lily, all of you amazing people over in the chat room and who attend these wonderful classes with Pamela. You create the most magnificent community that I've ever known. Really.
You really do. Yeah.
All of you, plus Pamela. Thank you all so very much, and see you next time.
Yep. Thank you, Candace. I love you.
Love you too. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.